Chapter 12. Writer, Mayor Goodway said. I need help at City Hall. What's wrong, Mayor Goodway? Writer asked. Today, I was cleaning the golden statue of Chicoletta when I looked up, and my nephew and niece, Julius and Julia, were playing on top of City Hall. 4. How did they get up there? Writer asked. They said they climbed up a ladder on the side of the building left by the man I hired to repaint the dome. When they climbed up, the ladder fell over and broke in two. Now all three of them are stuck up there. They could get hurt up there. Please hurry, the mayor pleaded. 5. Don't worry, Mayor Goodway. No job is too big. No dog is too small. Writer ended the call. He extended the pup pad and pressed the button surrounded by the colors of the team. As soon as Writer tapped it, the pup tags of the dogs lit up. Paw Patrol, to the lookout, he said aloud. 4. Writer needs us, the Paw Patrol said in unison. They ran towards the lookout. Rubble was the first to the elevator since he was in the living room watching television. He was followed by Rocky and Zuma, who were having a pup-pup boogie dance-off. After them came Sky, Everest, Chase, Ash, and lastly Marshall. Although Marshall was not as clumsy as he used to be, he slipped on a chew toy. He slid into the others that were already inside the elevator. Ash landed on Chase's back, Rubble, Marshall, Zuma, and Rocky were in a dog pile. Everest and Sky were standing to the side, so they weren't affected by the crash. Ash, sweetie, Everest said. Are you okay? Ash was still on Chase's back, facing the ceiling. The legendary dad elevator crash, he said to no one in particular. Awesome. 4. Everyone laughed as the elevator doors closed and the group went up. They stopped on the second floor, and everyone except Ash got changed into their uniforms, and the elevator continued upwards. Everyone jumped out and got in their spots, with Everest next to Marshall and Ash in front of them. Paw Patrol, ready for action, Writer, sir, Chase exclaimed as he stomped his paw on the ground. Chase smiled. Man, how I love saying that. They all laughed. Thank you all for coming, Writer said. Mayor Goodway just called. Julius and Julia climbed up to the roof of City Hall by a wooden ladder. When they got to the top, the wooden ladder fell and broke. Julius, Julia, and the man who was painting the dome are now stuck on the roof. For this mission, I will need Marshall. You will climb up and bring everyone down to safety. I'm all fired up, Marshall said. And Chase, Writer said, which surprised the pups, even Chase. You will be on the ground and make sure no one falls and gets hurt. Before Chase could say that he was on the case, Marshall interrupted. Writer, are you sure about this? He asked. Chase just got back. He may still be rusty. We should wait a while until we know he is up to it. I can handle the job myself. I have an inflatable pad in my fire truck. 12. Marshall, I have trust in Chase, Writer responded. I trust that he will do a good job. Yeah, but I don't fully trust him yet, Marshall said. And I can't work with someone that I don't trust. 2. Writer thought about it. He looked over at Chase and realized that he was heartbroken by it. Marshall was Chase's best friend and brother. Okay, how many of you feel that we can trust Chase? The first paw to raise was Sky's. Chase looked at her and gave her a half smile, to which she returned the smile. The second paw to go up was Everest's. I trusted him before he disappeared, she explained. And he left, trusting that we could take care of the city without him. There is no reason I should have ever stopped trusting him. Despite this, no other paws went up. 2 votes is enough for me, Writer said. He's still on the mission. 1. Marshall grumbled. Fine, Marshall said. 6. All right, Paw Patrol is on a roll, Ryder exclaimed. He passed the pups as they cheered and howled. He grabbed onto the fireman's pole and slid down to his garage, where he had his ATV. Marshall walked past Chase without looking at him and slid down the chute to his fire truck. Chase dropped his head and sighed. He was going to follow him when someone stopped him. Give him a break, Chase, Everest said as she walked up to him. He has a lot on my mind. Marshall wants the best for Ash. He told me last night that he's glad that you're back after so long. But he didn't trust you yet. He doesn't want someone he doesn't trust defending the town his son lives in. I know, Chase said. I understand what he's going through. I wish he could know that he could trust me. You trust me, right? Of course, I do, Everest said. But only you can make Marshall trust you again. Chase thought about it. Having his brother not trust him was very hard on Chase. But he was willing to try again and again until Marshall trusted him again. Thanks, Chase said. For backing me up. Everest smiled. Anytime. Ash walked up to them. Can I come with you? He asked Chase. Chase laughed. Next time, Chase said. Okay, Ash replied as he ran off to play. Chase smiled. And I hope that you and Marshall know that I would never let something happen to Ash. I know, Chase, Everest said. I know. Chase ran towards the chute and slid down. He was determined to regain the trust of his best friend and brother. And nothing was going to stop him from achieving his goal. Author's note: I am dedicating this chapter to new Chapter 13. Chase, Ryder, and Marshall arrived at City Hall. When Mayor Goodway saw them, she ran over to them. Ryder, she said. Thank goodness you came. 8. Don't worry, Mayor, the Paw Patrol will take care of this, Ryder said. Marshall, use your ladder to get up there. Chase, I need you to have your net ready to catch them in case they fall. Okay, Ryder, Marshall said. But first. He ran over to the side of his fire truck and pulled out a red and blue inflatable pad and placed it under the ladder. There, now there's something I trust to catch me if I fall. Marshall climbed up the ladder onto the roof. 4. What was that about? Mayor Goodway asked Ryder. Ryder looked around, making sure Chase could not hear him. Marshall decided that he can't trust Chase after the incident. What? Mayor Goodway said. But Chase is the most trustworthy and loyal member of the team. Marshall doesn't see it that way. And it's not just him. Rubble, Rocky, and Zuma don't trust him either yet. I could go talk to them, she insisted. Make them trust Chase again. Ryder shook his head. Chase wants to do it himself. Chase wants to prove that he is still that trustworthy pup he was when he left 5 years ago. He doesn't want anyone else fighting his battles, not even me. The mayor nodded. Well, I have full faith that Chase could do it. Me too, Ryder agreed. It's only a matter of time until he regains their trust. Marshall walked along the edge of the roof. Okay, let's get you guys down. Awesome, Julia said. 5 years passed, but they were still as curious and adventurous as when Chase saw them last. The first one to go down was the painter, since he was the closest to the ladder. 2. The painter walked over to the ladder and climbed down. Once he was on the ground, Marshall said, Okay, Julia. Your turn. Julia walked over to the ladder and climbed down. Okay, Julius, let's get you down. They They started walking over to the ladder when Julius noticed something. "Wait, the painter guy forgot his lunch," he said. Julius ran over and grabbed the lunch. He held it away from his nose because it had an odd smell. "What is that smell?" "It's a homemade tuna sandwich," the painter said. Julius pulled it out of the bag and looked at it. He thought it smelled weird, but someone else didn't. A seagull flew over and started to peck at the bag. "Shoo," Julius told the bird. "This isn't your lunch." But the seagull didn't understand. It started to peck more. Julius tried to swat it away, but the seagull didn't leave. Julius was closer and closer to the edge of the roof. "Julius, be careful," Marshall said, but Julius was too busy swatting at the bird to pay attention. He got too close and started to tip over. Marshall ran over and got a hold of Julius's shirt, which only made Marshall fall with him. "Oh, no," the mayor screamed. Marshall and Julius started falling to the floor. "Rough net," Chase said. The net shot out of Chase's net cannon. The suction cups attached to the fire truck, the walls of the building, and a column. Marshall and Julius landed in the middle of the net. Marshall and Julius stayed frozen for a second, trying to process what happened. "Are you two okay?" Chase asked as he ran over to check on them. 2. Julius gulped. "That was an experience," he said between breaths. Mayor Goodway and Julia ran over and hugged Julius, glad that he wasn't hurt. "Thank you, Paw Patrol," Mayor Goodway said. "Whenever you're in trouble, just yelp for help," Ryder exclaimed. When the Goodways left, Chase looked at Marshall. "What about you, Marshall?" he asked. "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine," Marshall said. He looked over his shoulder at where the net was. "What's wrong, Marshall?" Ryder asked. The inflatable pad," he said. "I put it nowhere near the net. If it wasn't for Chase, we could have fallen on the ground." Marshall looked at Chase for a second and then looked down. "I'm sorry," he said. "I owe you an apology." Chase tilted his head. "For what?" he asked. "I didn't trust you. I didn't want you to come to this mission because I didn't want you in the way. I'm sorry." Chase could tell that the apology was sincere. "Hey, it's okay. I get it." Marshall looked up. "You do?" "Of course," Chase replied. "You got a son you have to take care of. If my son lived in the city, I wouldn't want people I don't trust watching him." 2. Marshall nodded. "Thanks for understanding, Chase." "We're brothers, Marshall," Chase said as he gently punched Marshall in the arm. Marshall laughed. "Brothers forever." He hugged Chase. "I'm so glad you're here to meet my son." 3. Me too, Marshall," Chase said. They separated and started walking towards their vehicles. "So, you and Everest," Chase said. "How did that happen?" 7. Marshall laughed. It felt good to have his brother back. Author's note: I am dedicating this chapter to Chapter 14. 2 days have passed since Chase came to terms with Marshall. During the past 2 days, there were no missions for them. Chase and Marshall spent the entire day together. They went to the park and hung out as they used to 5 years ago. They played tag, frisbee, tug-o-war, and other games. They enjoyed the time they spent together. 1. "I win," Chase said. He let go of the rope and walked over to Marshall. Marshall was on the ground, so Chase helped him up. "Come on," Marshall said. "Let's go one more round." He picked up the rope in his mouth. Chase laughed. Sure, why not, he replied. Chase picked up the other end of the rope. Ready, set, go, they both said in unison. They pulled the rope as hard as they could. Chase and Marshall were as strong as the other, so the line moved slightly. But Chase made the mistake of moving his foot, and Marshall yanked at the rope, dropping Chase to the ground. I win, Marshall said. Chase got up. Now it's tied, he said. It's 17-17. Want to break the tie? Of course, Marshall said. They picked up the rope and counted down. They pulled the line for a minute before it started moving. It moved to one side but always returned to its original place. Finally, Chase leaned back and turned his head, throwing Marshall off balance. Marshall let go of the rope before he fell to the ground. I guess I win, Chase said. Come on. We have to get going. Not necessarily, Marshall said as he got up. Ash is with his mom. We still got time to hang out. We gotta make up for all the time you missed. At that moment, their pup tags lit up. Paw Patrol, to the lookout, Ryder said through the pup tag. Chase raised an eyebrow at Marshall. Marshall rubbed the back of his neck. Or maybe some other time. Chase shook his head and chuckled. Come on, Ryder needs us. Chase and Marshall ran towards the lookout. They were the first to get there. Sky, Rubble, Zuma, and Rocky followed them in. Noticing that Marshall didn't crash into anyone, Chase pushed him over. Oh, no, Chase said. Marshall, you have to be more careful. Oh, I'm sorry, Marshall sarcastically said as he got up. You mean like this? He pushed Chase back, making him bump into Sky. Chase was laughing too much to notice her blush. 2. Yep, Chase said. Exactly like that. They all laughed as the doors closed. The elevator went up, stopping on the second floor to get changed, and continued to the top floor. They all jumped out and got into their positions. Paw Patrol, ready for action, Ryder, sir. Thank you for coming so quickly, Ryder said. He turned on the screen. We got an emergency. Farmer Al accidentally left his tractor on neutral, and it crashed the sheep and pig pens. Some of the pigs and sheep have gotten out. For this mission, I need Rocky. You will fix the fences and move the tractor back to the barn. 1. Green means go, he exclaimed. And Chase, you will track down the missing animals and herd them back. I still don't have your spy suit made, so you will have to find them with your senses. Chase is on the case, Chase said. All right, Paw Patrol is on a roll, Ryder said. He ran over to the fireman pole and slid down to the garage. Chase looked over to his side and noticed Rocky shifting from one foot to another. What's wrong, Rocky? I still don't trust you yet, Rocky said. 7. You can trust him, Marshall said. You should give him another chance. I'll give him a second chance when he proves that he deserves it. I don't think it's fair that he came back out of nowhere, and we automatically have to take him back. 2. I get what you're saying, Chase said. But I can promise you I will prove that I deserve a second chance. I hope you do, Rocky said. 'Cause if you don't, you will solely prove that you came back for nothing. He walked over to the chute and slid down to his vehicle. 6. The other pups were now looking at Chase. Chase sighed and looked at the others. See you later, he said. Chase slid down the chute and into his vehicle. Chase, Rocky, and Ryder drove down to the farm without saying a word to each other. When they got there, Farmer Al ran up to them. Thanks for coming, he said. No problem, Ryder said. Rocky, secure the fences. Chase, Find the missing animals and bring them back. Got it, Rocky said. Yes, sir, Chase said. He ran over to the fence and looked at the ground. Even without his gear, he could see some hoof prints on the soft dirt. I found some hoof prints. He sniffed the hoof prints. He got the scent of the sheep. I got the sheep's scent. He started following the scent. He went up the hill, across the barn, through the tomato plants, and ended up in the corn maze. I found where the sheep went, he said through the pup tag. Great, Ryder remarked. Where are they? In the corn maze, Chase replied. There was a long pause. Okay, Ryder finally said. Careful. Don't worry, Ryder, Chase said. You can count on me. He followed the scent through the maze. He ended up at a dead end a couple of times. He ended up back in the beginning once. When he was about to give up, he heard the sheep. He turned 3 corners and found the sheep huddled up together. He barked out his microphone and herded them out of the maze. Once he got them out, he led them back to their enclosure. Once Chase led them in, he got out and closed the gate behind him. The sheep have returned to their enclosure, he said. And the pigs? Ryder said. Before Chase could say anything, Rocky interrupted. I know where they are, he said. Where? Farmer Al asked. Yeah, Rocky replied. That's the problem. 3.